glad this is happening. Welcome to our YouTube podcast. Today we will be having a conversation with Frau Yvette Deseyve. She is the Deputy Director of the Alte Nationalgalerie Staatliche Museen in Berlin and the curator of the exhibition on Camille Claudel and Bernhard Hoetger, Emancipation from Rodin. Congratulations on this exhibition, it's stunning and I like it so much. So how does it feel to be the curator of the first exhibition at the Staatliche Museen in Berlin on Claudel and Hoetger after 120 years of the first show in Paris at the gallery of Eugène Blot?
Yes, I'm very grateful on the one hand, grateful to have all that works assembled, which is, well, nearly the whole exhibition which could have been seen in Paris at that time. I'm very grateful, and on the other hand, I'm very enthusiastic about it because I think the public has not so many chances to really study Claudel in that amount of works, and on the other hand, not in the counterpart with Hoetger. So yes, I'm grateful and enthusiastic.
Could you please tell us more about the title? Why is it Emancipation from Rodin?
Yes, the subtitle gives a hint to the idea which happened around 1900 in Paris, because in the 19th century, in the early 19th century, Rome always had been the point of interest because the Antique was the way for sculpture to get inspirations. And around 1900, it changed. Paris became the goal, the aim to be there. It was, well, the center of modern art, and in that center of modern art, especially for the sculpture scene, Auguste Rodin was the most important sculptor, and he was a kind of, well, we say godfather of the modern sculpture. And so it was, for Hoetger and for Claudel, it was the same. They kind of tried to orientate, they kind of were inspired by Rodin, but at the same time, they really had to find their own way. Not only the female sculptor, Camille Claudel, she had to, find her own way, also away from Rodin, but also Hoetger. He was a very young sculptor, and he focused on Rodin and then found his own way. So they both had to find a way to emancipate from Rodin.
It takes much courage
to
get out of this immense shadow. Rodin is something, but of course, emancipation is the thing.
That's true, and in Brancusi, for example, he said, you can't grow under a big tree. You have to really get rid of that shadow and find your own space and your own way to grow in the sun.
Exactly, exactly. I have a question about the way artworks are exhibited in the museum space, because they are not ordered chronologically according to the years they were created, but is this the attempt to recreate the atmosphere of the epoch, yes, when they were exhibited with Eugène Blot, right? Because we see here palm trees and a carpet and special furniture even that has been collected from other museums, probably of the epoch where the sculptures are placed upon. It's very incredible in particular. Why did you choose for this sort of showing the artworks?
Yes, you're right. We are trying to create the atmosphere of that time because we have one photograph which is really exceptional that we do have it from that exhibition Eugène Blot made in Paris, and it is the photograph where you can see all the sculptures which were exhibited, but very dense, very different pedestals and sockles and furniture and plants, and it creates a whole a whole interior, a whole world on itself. And we are here at the Alte Nationalgalerie. We do have a building of the 19th century. We do have art of the 19th century. And I wanted to try to use the methods of the 19th century, the draperies, the cloths, the plants, all the furniture, to make it possible for the visitors to see the 19th century art in a 19th century setting.
I think to a very big extent this setting does it. It is very impressive, and one perceives the artworks very differently. It's more soul in it. It's not very, how you say, correct in the means of trocken, dry. It has more emotion into it, and that's touching.
Yeah, when we are not a white cube museum, so we have that atmosphere in the building, and I think most of the artworks, they have a small size, and it's made for an interior, mostly for a private interior, and I think the setting makes a lot with the sculpture to create this private intimacy, that atmosphere.
Amazing. And speaking of...
I'm sorry, I think you have to cut that.
That's okay.
All right.
Speaking of, how does the tradition of showing art at the Paris salons influence the way we show art now?
Yes, of course it's really, really different compared to that time, and it is interesting that we kind of have the other way around, that the private collectors in our days, they try to have a white cube museum in their private rooms, large rooms, white walls, and so there's a way from the museum in the private collection and the other way around, private collection in the museums. So it is a kind of double way. But yes, it does influence a lot art, how it is presented.
The salons were actually the first state-funding exhibitions ever, because the king used to finance them, and these salons were public events, society events.
Yes, in Paris it was not funded by the king, but yes, it was private Vereine, Stiftungen, but it is a kind of private public exhibition. Yeah,
it was very, as a curator, it's very interesting to know about this. These were really social events, these salons.
That's true, yeah.
How were the artworks by Claudel and Hoetger selected for this exhibition? Which are your favorite pieces? And were there any pieces that you could not obtain from the museums?
We really focused on that 1905 exhibition at Eugène Blot. So the works which were exhibited there in Paris in 1905, they are the same as we have here. And we nearly, except of 4 works from Hoetger, which are the whereabouts unknown, we do have the complete exhibition which were shown there now here at the Alte Nationalgalerie. But I added 2 pieces. That's the one we see just behind us, L'Âge Mûr, that was not exhibited. There were only the Implorantes exhibited. And one, the head of Giganti, which is interesting because it was the first work ever bought by a German museum from Camille Claudel. So these are the 2 which are added. But on the other hand, it's the 1905 exhibition. And in the very last room, we added some more sculpture of Hoetger, of his later time, of the Arbeiterhaus in Bremen, because the Alte Nationalgalerie, we do have to show and try to explain what happens with Hoetger in the years after Paris.
Yes, he had a tragic destiny during the National Socialism. I had to read it all, and this is also the destiny of an artist in the terrible times or in the society that doesn't accept one. But this seminal artwork is iconic. I know that Rodin was infuriated because it's an allegory on Claudel and Rodin going back to his partner and she imploring him, but also on the other hand it's an artist going into the older age and taken away by this older woman.
Yeah.
It's an incredible work. That's why we have it in the background.
Yeah, and you can find very different ways to read it. You can read it on the one hand on that biographical way, but it is also a very traditional motive which you have in sepulchral sculpture, in the like taking away a beloved person by the personification of death. You can read it like this too. There's very, very different ways to read it, yeah.
Yes, very symbolic work. I also think that the dialogue between the collection of the Alte Nationalgalerie and the exhibited works by Claudel and Hoetger, they make a wonderful dialogue and they complement on each other exceptionally because Impressionist painting and Impressionist sculpture, they just enrich each other. It's very interesting come together. And I also saw here paintings by women artists like Clara Rilke-Westhoff, Maria Slavona, and Dora Hitz, to name but a few. How did you select these paintings from the collection of the Alte Nationalgalerie and the partner museums?
Yes, once again, the focus is on Paris 1905. So we tried to find male and female artists which came from Germany to Paris and lived and experienced that time in Paris. So all the works you see here are around that time and are all connected by artists which had been living in Paris at that time and worked in Paris, and so were influenced the same way as Hoetger was.
Especially the women artists, they're not so well known, and it's very interesting to see their work.
That's true, yeah.
Female gaze is the notion that is often used to characterize works by women artists. So can one say that Camille Claudel expressed her emotions through this female gaze, and what is so particular about it?
I'm personally not convinced about the female gaze. I don't believe in the female gaze. I think, and I want to try to show that there is a kind of equal scene for both female and male artists. I think that exhibition at the Galerie Eugène Blot shows it very, very perfectly, that man and woman are shown together on an equal space, and I think this is very often neglected. Yes, there are, of course, maybe they didn't have at the whole time the same chances or the same possibilities, but I think there is a kind of equality in that they had the chance to show their works, and I don't believe that Camille Claudel has a special female gaze. I think her works are very, very powerful. They are powerful, and she has a very special focus on figures. When you see the L'Âge Mûr, it's very interesting to see the old figures with wrinkles, with kind of sketchy type. I think it is not a female gaze. No, I don't believe so.
That's very interesting. Yes, she was one of the few who thematized this aging women and represented them, and the works are extremely powerful and they're very true to life. She doesn't want to make anyone beautiful, more beautiful. It's very realistic in that way. It shows this. And very powerful indeed, this wave. It's incredible. It's just this onyx wave that engulfs one. Although the work is so small in size, it's so strong. It was incredible to see it exhibited. Yes. How has Claudel's work influenced next generations of artists?
I think this is a very difficult question because she was not collected very widely. In Germany, we have the first work of Claudel in a German museum in the 1960s. And that was the head of Giganti, which were brought by the Kunsthalle Bremen, but not as a work by Camille Claudel, but as a work by Rodin. So it's very, very late that Claudel had been in the public, could be seen in the public collections. I think that is one problem of Camille Claudel, that her oeuvre is very, very small and not widely spread. So I think most of the people, they know Camille Claudel not by her artworks, but by her biography, which were dealt in movies, in books. So I'm not quite sure if she had a very big influence on the next generation.
Sadly, but maybe now.
Maybe now.
Now it will come through, by all means. I absolutely adore artists' museums. They really preserve the soul of the artist for the next generations. And the Paula Modersohn-Becker Museum in Bremen was created by Bernhard Hoetger back in the 1920s, and the museum dedicated to Claudel was opened in 2017 in France. So why are these museums so important for our societies now, at this moment in history? Because I know these museums have to struggle a lot to survive because of all the budget cuts and a lot of people being very ironic and negative about these museums.
Yes, you're right, they're having difficult times, but I think they're really, really important because they preserve the bequest of the artists. And of course, they do really focus on the research of these artists, and this is really, really important. It's so good to have a place where the works of Camille Claudel are not only preserved, but also being brought into science, into art history, because they do have really, really interesting exhibitions. They focus on a special topic, and they have books, they have publications, and so other artists can deal with that these works, and I think they have a really important role in the museum's landscape.
Yes, something else than at the university libraries, just the space and the aura. They're so exceptional. Just to go there and to plunge oneself into this atmosphere. They have to survive.
That's true, and also in Bremen, the Paula Modersohn-Becker Museum, Hoetger really was very close to Paula Modersohn-Becker, so he had a really large collection, and he helped a lot to kind of give an afterlife to her art and present it to the public. So it is wonderful to have these institutions.
Exactly, so that an artist can at best understand another artist and at best create a museum for an artist. I think it has to be something.
That's true.
And Do you have, as a curator, any exhibition plan, any exhibition that you would like to, by all means, realize, but never have had a chance to do so?
Of course, we do have all plans, a lot of plans. So one of my largest plans is to deal with colored sculpture, the polychromie, the polychromic aspect of sculpture, which is often neglected, not seen anymore in most of the find, and it's really a very important topic for the 19th century, so I'm working on that.
One example is Claudel. She used to really experiment with that. Oh, that's very interesting. How does a museum like Alte Nationalgalerie elaborate their exhibition plan? It's so interesting.
Well, we're a small team, but we do a lot of discussions, and every one of the curators, everybody has, of course, their own ideas, their own focus. So we try to find a good program for the early 19th, the late 19th century, between sculpture and between paintings. So it's a lot of discussion, and I hope we find a good way for the public.
Good luck, because the exhibitions are amazing. The collection is incredible. I love this collection. And Caspar David Friedrich was an absolute highlight, but that was the anniversary, of course. Yeah. But all of them are amazing. This is exceptional. And one last question about the questionnaire. There was this questionnaire handout, the questions by Marcel Proust, answered by Camille Claudel, and that was so charming and revealing about her character. How did this questionnaire come into this exhibition, and did they know each other personally?
No, they did not. They did not know each other. But the questionnaire is in the archive of the Musée Rodin, and I think it gives a very insight in the character of Camille Claudel. So that's why I put it in the exhibition. We don't have late works from her, but it's a way to show what kind of person she is, what kind of maybe ideas or plans she had. And it was a kind of game in this. It was very common to fill out that Proust questionnaire.
It was a famous one.
Yeah, very, very famous.
I answered the questions and I handed it out in the family, and one discovers much about oneself. And Camille had wonderful answers. She's living in the head of someone. She had fantasy. That was so lovely. Thank you so much. And by all means, come to this exhibition, see the artworks. It's so inspiring. Camille Claudel and Bernhard Hoetger, Emancipation from Rodin, Alte Nationalgalerie Staatliche Museen zu Berlin.